Well, the inflation numbers are out for June, and there's some conflicting news reporting going on surrounding it. Well, I'm going to be talking about inflation and the health of the American economy tonight on the Tomsic Analysis. And welcome, of course, to the Tomsic Analysis. I am David Tomsic. It's July 11th, 2024. It's now 8 o'clock in the evening. I am recording this from the studios here right outside the Steel City of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Thank you for joining me. The economy. Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of a cautionary tale first. It's Edgar Allan Poe. Remember him? Brilliant writer. Really had a real tough life with his wife dying, and he got into some really deep writing, some depressing writing in many ways. But one that really strikes home for me tonight is The Masque of the Red Death. Now, that was written in 1845. It's a Gothic allegory and explores the inevitability of death. Of course, we're not talking about death tonight on the Tomsic Analysis, but here's the point. His name was Prince, I think, Prospero, and him and his buddies, they were rich. They were rich, yeah. He had a villa. I think they called it a villa here. He called it an abbey in the book. It's an abbey, but it was a gated building, a mansion. And him and his friends went in as the Red Death spread out through the city. And the Red Death was killing just about everybody, if you know the story, and he was trying to hide from it. Him and his friends thought that by locking themselves up behind a wall and gates that they could hide from the Red Death. Now, there were 7 rooms, I believe, and in the last room there stood, it was the Red Room, and it stood the Red Death. And the idea behind this was you can't escape death. Now, let's move forward here to our economy, that many of you tend to hold on to the governmental narrative that everything's okay. Now, unless you're the candidate running against this government, it's not okay. But right now we're in the economy, and that is what it is. We're in this economy, and many still believe, and the mainstream media promotes this, that everything's okay. Okay, so here's the symbolism. Okay, we have people hiding behind their walls, and they're not the same walls as Prince Prospero. You know, we don't have gated buildings that we're hiding in. We hide in our bubbles that we create in our mind. We distance ourselves, cognitive dissonance, and Ashley, my co-host on Conversation with David and Ashley, sent me a meme about that, about cognitive dissonance, how we try so hard to push everything away from us. And unfortunately, we can't. It's here. And you can't run from the coming destruction of this economy. Now, I just talked about inflation. Okay, so let's go over inflation a little bit. The June report was in, and I think I had put it here on the back pages, so excuse me for having to sort of search for it. Okay, so the government, through its media mouthpieces, you know, the news readers in front of the cameras, reported, and I think it was in, where was it? Yeah, it was in Reuters, that inflation did not go up, that it was stable, that it was retreating. And, of course, the other news agencies, wherever I have it here, are telling us that, yeah, it didn't stay flat. It went up 3% over last year at the same time. Now, I was going to tell you that it's crazy talk to believe that somehow inflation went down, because I go shopping. I go shopping all the time with my wife, and I will tell you, and I had $150 to spend the other day, and it was like 9 items, 10 maybe. There was one package of steak for $20. Cheap. Okay? So we know from looking at the Fed charts and from looking at the charts that are available, and the Fed has its own charts, and they basically completely tell you the exact story. You just don't see them reported during the Fed minutes or anything place else. That inflation is not under control. In fact, Jerome Powell himself, has said he can't guarantee that inflation has gone down or will go down. Okay, Jerome, what happened to temporary inflation that you continue to preach up and down every news channel in the country? Okay, it has not halted. Consumer prices are increasing. Core prices on the charts of Trading Economics, which is a group that creates these charts, that prices not only increased in June, but they have not gone down, they have gone up 3% over last year. How is this happening? Well, the reality is that the only way this economy can survive, and listen to those you richer people, I don't know what else to call you, richer, more well off, that have money, that have a big retirement, have money. To those of you that can actually not look at this, not worry about it. Okay, maybe this program is not for you. Maybe you need to go to Bloomberg on CNN or the Fox News channel, and they'll tell you how the stock market's at record highs, and it is. Okay? You can tell those folks and call them and say everything's good for you. But for the rest of us, we're up Crapper's Creek without a paddle. And here's why. The Federal Reserve is buying all the debt. Now, understand how the federal government works. Debt is created. Treasury bills, we sell them. But no one's buying them. China stopped buying them. A lot of the countries have stopped buying them. They're done with us. We've talked about this on other videos. Go to my other videos on atomic analysis, and you'll see how I talked about the BRICS nations that nobody ever wants to talk about or hear about. Roll their eyes in their head. Oh, it's so complicated. I want to talk about something fun, like America doesn't have talent on TV, where half of them aren't even from America. Okay, so the Fed is buying the debt that they're producing. In one door, out the other. Okay? That debt is keeping this economy floating. The stock market will go to record highs and will not slow down in 6 weeks, 6 or 8 weeks. Everybody's so excited. Those of you that have some money in stocks, you're like Orgasmville. Did I say that right? I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. No, I shouldn't have said that. But you are. Oh, it's so great. Things are great. My stocks are $1 billion in my portfolio. Now, I want to give you a little tip. We should have learned this in 2008, but we don't, because see, we get excited. Oh, we get excited when we're good. That's $5 million in my retirement account. My 401k, $5 million. That money is only as good as when you actually can have it in your hand. Okay? It's a paper stock. It's on paper. Like your house. It's now worth $1 million. Only if you sell it right now. If you can get a buyer for it. You see where I'm going with this? It's all an illusion. It's all on paper. All of it. And right now, and I'm going to do a video on this as well. Not a live stream probably, but a video. Everybody has to realize that right now in this world, there's more chaos than we've ever seen in our history of 200 years. And that includes the pandemic. Oh, yeah. Okay? you have wars, political strife in 4 major countries in the world. We're at war in 2 places, and really technically in a type of a war in China. So we're at war in Russia, we're at war in the Middle East, and we're at war with China. And we're pushing harder for that to be a hot war and not just the type of war we're in now, which is through proxies. This country just saw and if you didn't see my video on the presidential debate, watch it, because it was a disaster for both candidates. People got mad at me. Oh, Trump won. He slam dunked. Well, there wasn't any debate. What did he tell me that I didn't already know? What did he tell me what he was really going to do and how he's going to do it? He didn't have to, because it was just about getting over on the other guy. It wasn't about informing me and you exactly what they're going to do, because they don't know. It's all about them, and it's all about what's going to happen, what deals they can make. And if you get run over by the truck, that's okay. Collateral damage, baby. Our debt problem in this country is unrepairable. Cannot be fixed by Donald Trump, by Joe Biden, by any loser they put in there. While the American stock market hits record highs, okay, homelessness hit new records. Citizens on public assistance hit new records. Okay, stock market is at record highs. Debt hit new records. Consumer debt hit new records. Many of the largest U.S. cities are in deep financial trouble. Did you hear this one? No, you haven't, because those folks on the news don't want to tell you, because everything's okay. Okay, so it says here, higher municipal credit ratings are the only thing keeping them afloat. Now, if you remember The Big Short, the credit ratings were pretty much a lie for these banks. They were a lie for everything. Cities, wherever they needed a credit rating, they were paid to keep them higher than they were. Do you trust anybody? And don't tell me you rich folk out there will try because you're okay, everything's fine. These people are honest. There's only a couple of them that are bad. Yeah. Keep believing that. I do have still available more swampland off the coast of whatchamacallit. I don't know where it's at. I'll get you the paperwork. Give me the money. Because if you believe the stuff that you are telling me, and some have told me directly, then you need to buy some swampland. You can develop it. Okay? Here's the thing. They're saying to the American people, they're saying to their citizens in those towns, in those cities, not enough money being generated through revenue to keep services at max. They said rising debt levels may lead to fewer public services, and they may have to have a difficult time making decisions as government as to what services to give you. Okay? So, get mad at me, turn me off. I don't care. I want people on this channel to support me because they understand reality. See, we have deniers in reality. The United States government and most of Europe are deniers in reality. If you listen to that NATO, and this isn't about NATO today, and those of you NATO lovers, you need to buy some of that swampland I have. These people are clueless as to what's happening in this world. They're going to get us into war, and they're going to get Americans killed if they have not already done so. Okay, so job market. 206,000 jobs in June, they said they created. That was up from what they believed they would create. Now, again, if you believe these numbers, you got issues. Because every single month, they come out with fantastic numbers, better than what they projected. And then the next month, without any banner or video programs on it, without news people reporting it, news readers reporting it, they revise those numbers down. So they're lying to you. There is no real job creation. And in the meanwhile, while these jobs are going up, unemployment's going up. And of course, at a greater rate than they're telling us. Why would they tell you the truth? There's no one getting laid off here. Nothing to see here. Everything's okay. U.S. trade deficit jumps to the highest levels in 19 months. Of course, as I said, deficits continue to balloon out of control. Understand that this is a debt-based financial system. If you don't understand that phrase, or if you think you do, and you still believe the things you do, there's a disconnect here. You're in la-la land, you're in denial, and it's not just a river in Egypt. Think about it. Go to your room and think about it. Wherever you think of things, if you do, think about it. Because you're at almost going to be at $35 trillion. The dollar is devaluing. The Fed is printing almost parabolic numbers into the stratosphere of fiat money, the fiat currency. This is not something that works. And of course, you get people that'll go, it'll work. We're the United States. We're the biggest country in the world. We can handle this. Some of the smartest and best minds in this country and others are saying otherwise. Not the ones bought and paid for by the think tanks, the mainstream media, the government, the non-governmental organizations that all get paid to say everything great about the American way of life. Okay? What's happening is another great wealth transfer. And I talked about this on my Patreon channel. I now am on Patreon. Please, if you get a chance, go to Patreon. Patreon.com/The Tomczyk Analysis. You can watch the video. It's a pay platform. I'm going to be honest with you. And I believe I set the first one up as free. I'm not sure. That site confused me a little bit. But it's $5 a month. That supports this channel. You will get exclusive content there. It will not be on YouTube or Facebook. Unless it's months down the road and I can get away with doing it because I'm going to be saying some things there that I cannot say here. That's why there are those pay channels. So please go to Patreon, subscribe to my channel, $5 a month or whatever you wish to give us. We appreciate it to keep us going here. Okay, so we have this great wealth transfer. It's going to the rich. Since 2020, almost all of it's going to the rich. Wealth transfers has been the big number one goal for the elites. And your Congress people, yes, they are. I don't care what you think of them. Nice people, maybe. Maybe you like them. Maybe you know them personally. They're friends. But, they are okay with all this. And if you don't think so, why don't I hear anybody on the news that's your friends, the congressmen or senators out there fighting for you and saying, wait a minute, we can't let this money go to the top 1% all the time or the top 4%, whatever it is now. Wait a minute. The American middle class is being destroyed. I'm here to represent them. I don't hear any of them. So don't tell me how good or nice they are. Just how much money they send to Ukraine? How much? I still have people tell me, oh, Ukraine's going to win the war. They're great. They're getting destroyed, and we're paying for it. Which means the closer they get to final destruction, the closer we get to intervention in a massive war, possibly nuclear. Take that home and sit in your little study and think about it. So this isn't just here. The banks are failing. The banks are underfunded. They're liquidity. There's no liquidity in the bank, should I say. We know this is happening. We know that the Fed has been bailing the banks out behind the scenes through these Fed, what they call report, or should I say, like a standing facility that helps people who helps banks that don't have enough money. So they give them these loans for 0% interest. Now, while saying that, in Japan, which is an interesting country to talk about, the fifth largest bank in Japan, it's called Norinchikin. I'm not sure I pronounced that right. It's huge. It's number 5, and it's a big bank. They pulled the plug on the global financial system with 63 billion treasury losses. They've lost money. European bonds. So to address massive unrealized losses on its balance sheet, so they had to sell off $63 billion in treasuries and European bonds to pay for this loss. The bank was quietly added to the U.S. Federal Reserve's banking cartel standing facility report, which is its foreign bank slush fund. Okay, so they have a slush fund that they bail out other banks too, the Fed. Okay, so it has to stem the losses on low-yield foreign bonds. Japanese banks are sitting on mountains of real unrealized losses, just like 2008. The problem is they can't kick the can down the road. They have to now settle up these massive losses. Here's my point with all that. American banks are realizing losses as well. And there's only so much more the Fed can do. There's only so much money they can print to bail out everybody. They have to make a decision. Here's the problem. The Federal Reserve has to make a decision to save the dollar or save the banks. They can't do both. To save the dollar, they got to control interest rates. They got to, keep interest rates high. They got to reduce inflation. But they're not. They're going to save the banks from failing, which means our lives will be hell on earth. Now, again, I will quote a gentleman I never met. He said this, when all else fails, we are taken to war. And that was Gerald Celente of the Trends Journal. He's again, a top-notch trends researcher, what's happening in the world, future and present, and he writes about it, researches on it. And does the YouTube game. He's on every channel known to man except mine. And his big thing is that when all else fails, they'll take you to war. Okay? We're there. See, if you don't get it, if you don't see the connection, there's a connection. Failing banks, failing economy, fake numbers, failing president, failing political system. We need a war. And we're in them right now. I mean, see, you don't get it. We're already there. We don't know how far this will go. We don't. I get a feeling this could go pretty far. This could be shooting war with us and Russia. This definitely, we're going to be involved in the Middle East if Israel moves into Lebanon and starts a war there. And, of course, we're at a war with China in different ways, and that could eventually hurt us and bite us in the rear end because they are going to pull a lot of strings on us as well. So the thing is, there's nothing they can really do because for them here to even try to cut our deficits, it would be a bloodbath for everybody. For the first time ever, interest payments on U.S. debt surpasses every single budget item in the United States government except for Social Security and Medicare. Like Japan, U.S. banks are sitting on more than $500 billion in unrealized losses as interest rates rise. Who's getting rich? Well, the 1%. Your Congress, your senators. When the bullets start flying and the bombs start dropping, they're in bunkers. You're not. I just found out here that Chase Bank customers are reporting that there was a wave of wire frauds in their accounts, and the banks won't make good on the looted funds. They're not going to because they're insolvent anyway. They don't care. You see, you got to understand. We grew up in this country believing that there's a trust between us and banks, us and our government, us and our doctors, us and in all these institutions and things. There's a trust. It works both ways. They're there for us. We can trust them. Now we're finding, and of course our mainstream media, the Walter Cronkite story, but we're finding out Walter Cronkite was the right thing. He did the right thing, even as a more of a liberal guy and believed in the war back in Vietnam. When he found out that it was illegitimate and the Americans were getting killed and at best it was a stalemate, he reported it. And Lyndon Johnson called his boss and asked him, "What are you doing?" And I won't quote exactly what Lyndon Johnson said. He tried to keep the facade that everything was okay. Now, we don't have any more Walter Cronkites. What we have is news readers, and they're going to be told what to say, what to do. So if you really think that they're caring about you, that somehow there's this trust, this bond with your buddy down the street, maybe in some cases there are. But overall, the pressures of what needs to happen to keep banks solvent, to keep the system in place, to keep the empire that we have intact, they'll do anything. And the worst time for the world is when an empire like the United States, like Great Britain, or the Dutch, Rome, when they start to fail, that's when it's the most dangerous. So they will do anything to keep hold of power. In this case here, we will do anything. Lie, steal, cheat, kill, go to war. And if you don't believe this stuff, then again, you're on the wrong channel. There are plenty of channels out there that'll powder your rear ends and make you feel good and tell you how the stock market and your 401k is going to be great and the stocks to buy and the tech stuff. And they're going to tell you all that. Except that money means nothing unless you can actually grab it right now. Peter Schiff, and I'm going to close with this. Peter Schiff is an economist. I like Peter Schiff. He believed that the banks, they're getting a stress test. They do certain things, and they see if the banks can handle certain types of stress placed on their financials, their systems. The problem is the stress tests they take are a joke. You and I could pass them, and I'm not a banker. They won't stress the banks enough to let you find out how bad they really are. See, we are in a situation where the whole system is pretty much bankrupt. You see, like I said, Peter Schiff believes to keep banks solvent, the Fed will allow inflation to run out of control to prevent further financial crisis worse than 2008. Government will save the banks, but the people's money will be destroyed by inflation. That's according to Peter Schiff. And he also said, and this I agree with, inflation is not prices, but it is money supply and credit rising, and rising prices as a result of inflation. So the more credits you have out there, the more people borrow, the greater the inflation. We have a credit boom. People are borrowing, using credit cards. They're buying and building new wings onto their house, repairing their houses. These are all done on lines of credit or credit cards. You know, you're not getting money out of your pocket because you have $50,000 to put a room addition on if you can put one on for $50,000. So the point here is that there's no stopping inflation. And it could get into stagflation, which means that we're doomed. The problem with all this is that taking a step backwards, you see what I've just told you about the United States government and all the issues. Told you a little bit about one bank in Japan as an example. The problem is, at the same time, we're in a war, 3 wars, and outside of that, we now have more and more and more countries stacking up against the U.S. dollar system. Now, if you listen to people on TV, they're all bad, evil people, and they're trying to kill the dollar, and they're trying to harm us. They're trying to do all these bad things to us, but this was eventually going to happen. There was no way around this. The U.S. dollar has been used more and more as a weapon over the last 10 years than anything. You know, it has been used against people. Our military has been used against people to cause countries to do what we want. Instead of having diplomacy and negotiation, we use gunboat diplomacy. We will threaten, kill, steal, destroy, whatever we need to do. These countries that now are fed up with it have another alternative, and that's the BRICS nations, the new economic group that's joined together to find out how to get around the dollar, to get around sanctions, to create their own way of trading without using the dollar. As I mentioned, Saudi Arabia, after 50 years, no longer will accept just the dollar as a means of buying oil. Others now can use their currencies or a negotiated type of currency or gold. This is a big deal. Many on TV say it's not. I say it is. I'm going to keep you updated here. Listen, I hope you liked today's live stream. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share the video. I need you to do that. Please, the likes are important. The algorithm is killing me. Get more people, your friends to watch multiple videos. Help me and this channel grow to reach more people. And we thank you. We give you thanks for everything you've supported us with. Remember, Jesus Christ is the reason for all good things. He will help us in everything we do. He's the answer to everything. God bless you. I'll see you next time right here on the #1 channel for news and information, the Tom Sig Analysis. Good night.